Hey everyone, I'm in the garage, finishing up. So I've got almost everything done. Both sides Scotch Brite, but I'm not going to do the sanding yet. I just want everything clean and free of dirt and dust and oil on both sides. So again, no dust, no dirt, no oil, and there's going to be overspray. So if overspray sticks someplace, and I want it to stay, because even though I'm going to come back to the top surfaces and give them a sand, this one's pretty smooth, but we want to, this door, I can tell it feels a little off. So I definitely want to come back in there and cut it, either 6 or 800 grit. I don't know, I'll see. I'll do a test spot and see what feels right. So I want to come in there and back in here and be able to treat these for a final. Like this one, I just have to flip it now. But I just want to show you a couple of tips, just in case for those of you that don't know. I'm going to flip this door over to the other side and finish up on the top. Everything else is done. The majority of the paint today is going to go on the underside, but it's going to be on the underside of the bonnets, both bonnets. So that's what's going to take up most of the paint. I'm not sure how much paint I'm going to need, so I'm not going to mix up all that much. I don't want waste. I'll have to throw it out. You can't reuse it. It won't stay. It actually stays for a couple of days in a closed container, believe it or not. But if you bet any more than that, depending upon what the temp is and everything in here and how you've treated it, it'll go bad, right? It'll kick in the container. So let's move the camera over to that door, and we're just going to use a little bit of Scotch Brite and just some soapy water and a rag and get everything cleaned off. We'll be back in a minute.
A few moments later.
These were all, as you saw, pretty dirty. Now, many of them were covered for the most part, but in some cases they weren't fully covered. And I say a year. It could be more than a year. It could be 2 years. It could be 3 years. This one, it was a little bit of dirt in the corner. It had been covered for the most part, but there was some dirt in the corner. I had vacuumed it. I just washed it real quick with a little bit of the Super Clean and emptied out my bucket again. I change my bucket frequently, especially on a project like this, because it has been sitting for a really long time and there is dirt and oils or whatever. Even if you can't see it, it wasn't blotchy like the bonnet, it's there, and you're removing old material. So a good tip is to clean your bucket. I like to use warm water, warm to hot water, as hot as I can get it, which reminds me I'm supposed to go in there and check the heater. This way it dries a little quicker, and it's cold out, so it's actually comfortable on your hands to do that. So I wanted to make sure I got a nice wet Scotch Brite pad, and I keep this around. I add water as well. And so this is medium grit, and this should be fine, right? We're just going to get started. And of course the phone is ringing. Yeah, let's shut it off. Now I add a little bit of detergent in there. Just dish detergent. Dish soap is the best thing to use. Dawn is always the best, but anything that you have laying around, as far as dish soap, is good. And then I'm just going to make sure I get with my fingers in all the grooves. I'm not going to focus in on any one area. I want to make sure that I hit everything, and I try to use a fresh piece for I'll use it as long as I can, but once I start to feel it really losing its grip and its bite, you may want to change it out. Now, this doesn't have a lot of orange peel and crap on top. I can tell, I can feel it. The other door did have a little bit more. So as I said earlier, I don't know what I'm going to be using. I wouldn't go any less than 6 or 800. Something in that range. Yeah, see here? Okay, that's got a lot of feel to it and overspray. And now I don't have to be worried. One, I'm not going to be having issues with dirt and grease and filth, but whatever overspray goes on there, if it really gets stuck, and I'm in an area where I don't want to sand it per se, I don't have to worry about it. It's stuck paint, okay? I don't have to focus on it, and it's not going to come off. And then I just take my rag, wet rag, good clean wet rag, and just pull off that extra. Now finish up with, on these, I finish up with a clean terry towel. I'm not worried about lint just yet. And also I want to make sure I've wiped these down already. I want to make sure there's no potential for dirt. I mean, it's not super clean in here. It's not really clean in this environment, unfortunately. I tried to get it as clean as I could, but I noticed that there's already dirt tracked in on the floor in here. But I'm not too worried about that. Mostly because we're really focusing on the underside. And when I go to spray these for the last time, I'm going to wash the floor. The shop is going to be much cleaner. You know, this is, when I paint the top side of this, it's going to be something that I'm going to come back over. We're just putting 2 coats to match the body. And then we're going to put everything on the car. And then it'll get its last wet sanding. It may have to be corrected too, because if there's ever a fisheye, not a lot you can do about a fisheye. You can put some fisheye preventer in, but you get a fisheye, you're going to have to let it dry. And you're going to have to fix the area and sand it and whatever. And then you're going to have to respray. So I'm just going to towel off any extra. I'll finish up by blowing with the air. I'll flip it over when it's dry. And by the time I think I take a little, nosh, grab a little something for lunch, and I have to start mixing up the paint. All of this area, all of this will be dry, and I'm going to hit it with a little fresh tack rag. We'll start blowing paint on. So I'm going to bring you guys back in a little while, I guess, after we blow some paint on, and I'll see you in a bit.
Day 2.
Let's take a closer look, guys. It's not quite 24 hours later. It's about midday the next day. Let's get in here and just do a quick walk around, because then I'm going to flip them. Pretty decent. Definitely some success. There is a couple little micro spots that I had. Unfortunately, a couple in an area that you could see, but they're really small. They're little pinholes. A little bit of dust got on here, but most of it, interestingly enough, came on when it was skinning or had skin. And what I found with my Nova was you could kind of, if you had stuff like that or little pools or pimples or whatever, if you spray like spray-on wax and with a good towel, whether it be a terry cloth towel or one of your favorite lint-frees, as you clean the car over the years or whatever it is, that stuff just eventually all polishes out because it's such on like the surface. But it really came nice though overall. I think I got a couple little runs right here which we may fix. They're a little soft. If I don't have the tool that shaves them. You could go in with a razor blade, but without the tool, I got to get that tool. There's very little, dusting and pimpling. And again, like I said, you can get rid of that. I got good color holdout, good coverage. So it could use like another coat, but this is a cheap car, right? I got to set limits on it, guys, because it's not a car that's going to gain me a lot of money. It just isn't. So it's not that you want a poor quality. It's just that this is not a show car. It's not your hot rod. It's not my hot rod. We just want to get a nice paint job on here. And again, like I said, there's a couple little tiny fish eyes. I want to flip it, but I think I'm going to wait. It feels like it's dry, but my suspicion is that there's still some areas, and it's been cold. So we're probably going to go do something else. We're going to take a quick look. I'll wait till tomorrow, give it another day. It could cost me the paint job on the underside. So why do that? Because it's got to have to lay on something. So yeah. All right. Let's take a quick look.
The next day.
Okay, so I got a little bit of a run there. I think there is another one. Here's a tiny little one over there. So that's okay. We'll fix that. All right, it's soft, so it's 2 days later. All right, so let me set up the camera, and we're going to get out some sandpaper. Let me see what I have, and it doesn't feel that bad. There's just a few spots. That's not bad at all. So we're just going to do a quickie. They've already been Scotch Brit or Brighted, Scotch Brighted, Scotch Brit. And the edges are good, right? We got a good amount of paint on the edges. So there's one run over here too. So we got a little run over there. Okay, so we're going to fix that. And then we're going to do a little bit of sanding, very light. Here's another little run. Tiny little extra blob. That's good. That's okay. So there's a good amount of, a really, really good amount of paint on all the edges. And they'll get hit a little bit more as we sort of blow around. Plan for today, it's very cold out, so it's going to be hard for me to be in here with the smell of this. And it's going to be hard for me to be outside, too, doing stuff. So it's going to be a tough day. It's about the afternoon. Let me get out the sandpaper that I want to get and a little bit more Scotch Brite. In fact, we'll just use the Scotch Brite we had because it's a little softer now. Right, it's a little less abrasive. And I got my bucket and soap, and we'll get started. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our razor blade, and we're first going to start off coming in this direction. I'm just going to hold it at an angle, very shallow angle, and we're just going to kind of push a little bit at a time. There you go. Now they sell a nib tool. Eastwood has one. I'd like to get one. They sell a nib tool, which is a file, piece of a file in a bed, a wooden bed or sled that you can. I might go get a sharper razor blade. This one might be on its way out. Here's a little extra here. And most of this you're not going to see because, yeah, that's good. And then when we sand it, we're going to sand very lightly. All edges need to be sanded with extreme caution, if at all, right? Generally, don't sand an edge. That looks pretty good, and we're going to come back in a little bit, and we're going to just sand everything. I'm going to try 600 grit on the hood first. Probably just do a light pass. Let's have some fun. Alright, so you got like some old 600 soaking in the bucket, which is good because it's a good way to test because it's probably closer to 800. It feels a lot smoother from the other day. We're going to stay away from the edges. And I have a backing pad. It's like a dual purpose backing pad. Alright, let's hydrate that too. So one side's a little softer. Staying away from the edges. I mean, you can get close to the edge, but yeah, it's cutting. Oh yeah, and I think it needed the 600. 600 is not bad. I mean, 600 sanding body surface. I'm just trying to listen, and you can use your rag to help lubricate. Sanding a surface to 600. That's almost show quality. In fact, it's a lot more than most people do. That's it. That's that side. And we're going to have to change the water a lot because now you're really taking material off. Now we'll get to the other panel. Yeah, it took material off. I don't know if you can see that. I don't have all the lights on. You know, you'll want to try to stay focused. So don't bite off more than you can chew, because you'll forget. You'll forget, and you'll forget that there's an area that you missed. You'll forget that there's an area that you're working on too much, and you'll kill it, and you'll just kill that area too. And so you'll miss an area, and then you'll overwork an area. So just take a small area until you're happy with it. And what's nice about panels like these is there's natural borders. There's a natural amount that you can chew on. Listen. That doesn't feel bad. That doesn't sound bad. They can be a little bit, and you can feel it through your glove, but the best way to feel, some people say the glove gives you a different feeling. And you can feel things with the glove on that you can't feel with your bare hands. Now, wash your hands. If you change your gloves, and wash your hands before you put your gloves on. Okay, because if you have oils on your hands, depending upon what time of year and what you're doing, I just had a big Italian sandwich dripping with oil and vinegar, and and then I'm like, oh, all right, let me just go get this. Let me put my glove on now. And you didn't wash your hand. You take it out. You keep doing that, and then you're like, oh, let's check this out, and you got Italian sandwich all over that. You get pepperoni, and you got your balsamic vinegar and your olive oil, all on your work, right? And then you're wondering why. What's with the fish eyes? So yeah, it's real easy to have contamination. There's a little bit in here. Now, look, I could work all that out. I'm not gonna, okay? It's not worth it, right? It just isn't. We got a little bit more in here. A little, you can hear it, listen. I think you can hear that. Now let's try it with the glove. See the difference? So, I can feel it a little bit more with my bare hands, but I can hear it a little bit more with the glove on. So that's a good test. All right, so I'm happy with that. I'm going to now do these edges here, and then I have to come back with a fresh bucket. Now there's overspray in here, so I don't really want to get too carried away. I certainly don't want to touch the edges. So I'm just going to make a quick pass. Now, what I would recommend after this is take a lint-free towel, even though we're going to paper lint-freeze, and even though this looks really clean and everything, go and get yourself some Windex, or you can also take Windex and you could mix it with a little bit of vinegar, preferably the cleaning vinegar, which they sell separately, and you can even put a little bit of ammonia in, or you can get a more ammoniated version of window cleaner, and then just go over it real quick, spritz it, and just wipe it. Don't flood it like what I just did, because you don't want water drippage. Make sure everything is ready, then take your tack rag, rag everything, and then come out, mask up, and spray. So we'll be back in a little bit, and you'll see me probably after I spray it. Okay, everything is sanded, scotch-brighted, washed off, wiped off. We got one more step. So I mixed in glass cleaner, and like I said, I have a few other things in here. And one of the ingredients I like to put in here is just a little bit of that cleaning vinegar. And I don't put much in. So from like here up, right, if you happen to have all of this Windex, you also put a little ammonia in there. So I'm just going to spritz it, and I'm going to take a nice lint-free towel. It's not just a regular towel, it's a paper towel, not just a regular paper towel, it's a paper towel. Okay, lint-free paper towel. So it's blessed by the Pope. Okay, so you got to use one of them. They're really smooth.
Later.
A couple of days later now, it's dry. There's a tiny run somewhere here. Very small. We'll get that. We'll fix that. There's no other real blemishes. There were other couple of little runs on this end too, which I cut off with the razor blade. And again, we'll fix that. Right? That will be imperceptible when I'm done. Other than a little bit of dust, which is to be expected, and we're going to deal with that. This is nice. This came out nice. Couple of little issues. Two little tiny spots right there. Those are fish eyes. Okay. And we'll fix that too. And the worst one is on the driver's door. Right there. Right by the handle. And there were a few others, but they went away. They were able, with subsequent finish coats, they were gone. There's one here. Okay, we'll get that. And some dust. There are some areas that was so clean and nice and wet. You know, the wetter you get it, the smoother it is. There's an area down here that was so wet that it's so smooth to the touch. But because you don't want to create graininess or orange peel. There's a little run over here on the edge, but that's okay. We can get that too, right? We can flatten that. This is the passenger door. Perfect. I don't see anything wrong with it. I think what I'm going to do is going to try to fix a few issues now, but it's not worth it. I'm so close to finishing the car. We have a lot to do on the car itself. All this has been sanded, and I dealt with all the little pimples and what have you on this thing. It's filthy now, but I dealt with all of that. It needs to be cleaned off, and we need to get it out of here and get the parts on the car, and then we can fix the last few things, and we're good to go. And the fenders are underneath here, and it's a mess underneath there. You can't see them, but they're disgusting, right? I really should bring them outside and rinse them. That's how bad they are. So I think that's what we're going to focus on. Let me move all of this, hide it, put it away wherever I can. And so that's part of the problem. Figure out how to do that today and get the fenders out. And maybe if it stays nice enough, I know it's going to be warm this week. Maybe if it stays nice enough, I can just give them a quick rinse with the hose and then bring them in and we'll wash them and we'll get them painted.
The next day.
Look at how dirty. Right? It's just disgusting. So I figured what I'll do is I don't want to carry them back outside again. If I drop them or something, you could see how bad it is. Look at all the puke underneath and everything. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to vacuum them with my HEPA vac, my rigid vacuum, get them vacuumed off. Then I'll wash them one at a time, rinse the bucket out when I'm done, and I'll move them to a stand or one of the other locations around here. Okay. And we'll get it done that way. So I'll be back in a minute. All right, end of day. So I'm getting, these are all clean and taped off. They're ready to go. And there's a couple little blemishes. And that's what spot putty's for. There's a little bit of, a few spots where, yeah, that should be all right. I could probably put a little bit more on and then sand it. I'll do it tomorrow. Right, they need one more cleaning just with some, the Windex. And this one had a little blemish. Sometimes things shrink and whatever. And just so you can see why I'm doing that is because these had got, fully done, rust stabilized, everything. So, and this is black paint. And Mike said to me, well, are you going to get white underneath there? And then you're going to go back in and fix all of that? And, it's supposed to be like this. I said, well, thought about it. I did get a little bit of overspray on it from primer. So I thought, all right, well, then we'll tape it off, right? Tape is cheap, and so is the paper. I don't have like an auto paper thing. I don't even know what you call it. Some kind of auto paper delivery thing. I think it even puts it on for you. That's how good it is, some of those machines. You don't even have, you just walk away, you load the paper and the tape in, and you come back, and mysteriously everything is all on again. All right, so I'm going to do this one. I just have to clean the other side. They're really dirty. Vacuum first and clean, wash, then clean buckets. And then I do Scotch-Brite and sand, wipe everything down good. And like I said, before I paint, I'll Windex it and clean towel with the paper towel.